I fell so in love with education and the concept of education and helping people build themselves and free themselves through education.
What Kelly Edmonds shares with us is her love of educating others by merging her techie side with her online teaching passion. I'm Steve Atwell, and this is Education Hackers. Today we have Dr. Kelly Edmonds with us. Kelly is a professional instructional designer with her own company, Wired Learning Designs. After pursuing 3 degrees in education and 15 years of experience teaching and designing, she focused on providing design services to academic, corporate, and entrepreneurial clients over 5 years ago. She is passionate about teaching and learning and has worked in the online world for many years. She is a great course and program developer because she gets 3 things: student needs, online learning, and effective design. Kelly's approach to creating online courses is focused first and foremost on the learners, not marketing, not the technology, and not the instructor. Learning needs to be an experience, and creating learning journeys via the digital and virtual world is her forte. Kelly is a creator of Your Great and Gorgeous e-course, a jam-packed resource for all your e-course design needs. Kelly, welcome to the show. Tell us more about who Kelly really is.
Well, I'm a Canadian girl, and I live in the western part of Canada. And I started off life in my career as an accountant. So I have a business background, but I was really sort of unsatisfied with just going to work every day and pushing around figures and papers. And I decided to create a little course back in, I'm going to date myself now, 91, when the whole entrepreneurial thing started, everybody having their own little business. So I thought I'll create a course and show them, how to run a business, and mostly the paperwork side, not really the marketing side, how to take care of taxes and budget and stuff like that, and create sales invoices. And one thing led to another, and a college picked me up and wanted me to teach more and more. And I just fell in love with education. I found it really quite satisfying. So I really like to bring my background in business and technology and teaching literacy into the online world where I teach. I fell so in love with education and the concept of education and helping people build themselves and free themselves through education that I just pursued 3 degrees and really enjoyed learning how to make the best learning experience for students. And I still am from that part. I'm a teacher at heart, but I'm also a techie. So bringing the 2 together, I guess I'm Generation X. I think that's it. We're probably the techie group of the old crowd.
From the mainframe time period.
Yes. Yeah. I went to BCIT, which is in Vancouver. I used to live on the coast for years, West Coast for years, and it's a technical school. And I was in computer programming in 1981. So you can imagine what the CPUs looked like. They were a room full of computers with vacuum tubes, and I did the card reader thing, and I didn't drop my box of cards. And so it was really way back before even,
Well, we're from the same time period, so you don't have to worry. Because I remember I grew up in the UK, and I went through college there in the UK. I went through primary school, secondary school, college, even the first year university there before moving to Canada. But I remember in the late 70s, I went to college, did A-levels in the UK. And then when I went to college there, they had a huge, what they called a computer center. And they had PDP-11s and Fortran on those machines. And They had dumb terminals meaning all you had was a computer with text on it. There were no graphics. There was no such thing as graphics. So you could type in something that you wanted to program. So using BASIC or Fortran. And that was it. And, during lunchtime, we got to play around with these computers. And that was a nice, interesting time period. But we've come a long way from there now. So tell us a bit more about your technology background.
I was always an early adopter, and I remember even fighting the concept of using a mouse or the graphical interface, when graphics came and Windows came. But I always used like the spreadsheet. Back then it was Lotus, and this was probably in the mid 90s. I started to use that more and more when I was working for companies that as an accountant. And so I've always used that as a tool, and I've stuck with it. And I started to take some education courses and studies, and I fell into this online learning thing back in '99. I was on the West Coast, going to college, having to drive somewhere on the weekends and taking these teaching courses. And the University of Alberta in Canada offered this online program. Well, I just thought that was the best thing since sliced bread, because I could stay at home. I could work from home. I could do my homework at nighttime, and on the weekend I didn't have to drive anywhere. So I really fell in love with the concept of what technology can give you. So I'm not really a hard coder or anything like that, but I'm pretty comfortable with technology. And I've just seen, especially in the field of educational technology, the changes that have been made. I've probably worked in every learning management system out there because I've designed in it or I've been a student in it. My 3 degrees have all been online through Canadian universities. So I've really been immersed in that environment for about 15 years. There's been lots of changes.
So what degrees do you have?
I have a Bachelor of Education, and that's in adult education, so how adults learn. I have a Master's of Education in Educational Technology, so using technology with any type of learning, be it in the classroom or at a distance. And my last one is a Doctorate of Education, and that is in Higher Education Leadership with a focus on online learning, so how to deliver online learning through universities or programs, all the way from, the design aspect to, the faculty development to putting the infrastructure in for a whole university. So I've just really, really fell in love with this topic.
Do you teach online full-time, or are you a faculty member? What do you do?
Well, I made that decision when I finished my doctorate that academia maybe wasn't the place for me, and I took a little hiatus and recovered from that experience, because I did a master's and a doctorate back to back. It was really insane. And I fell into instructional design. People started calling me who knew me in academia, so colleges or universities, saying, hey, will you design courses? And it's like, well, sure, I do that anyways. And I started to design courses for both the online environment and the blended, so part in the classroom, part online. And I came to realize there's not a lot of really high-skilled instructional designers out there, especially with my background, with the technical background, the educational background, and the design. And it just and also the content. Like I could create business courses, and they wouldn't have to go get a subject matter expert and try to make that all work together. They could just hire me as a package. And it just took off from there, and I love designing. It's such a creative process, and whatever I design, I really focus on the students.
So what do you like most about creating online courses?
The underlying thrill for me is that it's delivering learning to people in a convenient manner, especially the developing countries. I'm so excited about how connected people in Africa or India or Indonesia through mobile technology or even their own computers, but mostly it's the tablets or their phones, and not having to come to North America to get a certain education that they're pursuing, and trying to immigrate and the costs and just living here, especially in Canada, in this frozen tundra. But being able to have education delivered to them, and even health education, understanding health literacy. So that's the extreme, but it just really excites me that learning can be delivered to people to help them improve themselves or add a new skill or change their careers or just to enlighten them. It just really excites me.
That's great. I mean, talking about the frozen tundra, I mean, you're in Alberta, Canada. Like that, it can get pretty cold there. I mean, I worked in Toronto for 6 years, and it used to get to minus 30 degrees there sometimes in the winter. But you have the Chinook winds, don't you? That kind of warm things up.
That's right. We get the Chinook winds. You can ask my husband, he's a geologist, how that all works. Comes down from the mountains, and it can go, like one day can be minus 20, which is about the same in Fahrenheit and Celsius, and the next day could be 10 above.
Wow. And
we could have it for a few days, and it really is a relief. It really is.
So when you're going outside, you don't know whether you should be taking a winter coat or wearing a T-shirt.
Exactly. You got to check the weather environment website before you go out.
Wow. So you have a very interesting background. I mean, you have a educational technologies degrees and you're teaching online, you love what you're doing. You create courses for other institutions and other people. Do you create courses for institutions or for individuals as well?
Actually, my client base, I've moved into the entrepreneurial world is one branch of my company. And right now I'm designing for all three types of clients. I'm designing for a college, a university. I do design for corporate clients. I just don't have one right now, and also an entrepreneur. And and I find all their needs are sort of different. And another reason I'm going into the entrepreneurial world is because I want to help them build really great online courses. So I have a course and I have that resource piece that's coming out called eCourse in a Box. So I'm just sort of developing these things for people, and I have a blog that they can follow, and I give tips on how to create good learning, both technically but also from the learner-centric approach, and really think about their learners. Because I've noticed in the entrepreneurial world, they don't, that understanding may not be there. It's just like, well, I'll just slap up a bunch of slides and talk about them, as opposed to like, what's happening with your learner? How are they engaging? How to break this down so the brain absorbs it, and they actually, there's a change in behavior, a change in thinking because of your course.
You mentioned a few things actually that I'd like to get into. One of the problems I see with online courses and MOOCs, the massive open online courses that a lot of the universities are producing right now, one of the issues that I see is engagement. I mean, you can sign up for a course, it's free. What's, making those students come back and keep learning? That engagement part of it has to be something that's built into the course, I think. I know I talked to some gamification experts, and they talk about gamifying courses and giving points and badges and so on, so that there is a reason for a mental, subconscious reason for somebody to come back and continue taking a course or online training of some kind. It keeps you engaged. There's also the interaction with other students, so that you can maybe, if you run into an issue or problem or you have a question, you can talk to other students. Are you using some of these things in your courses?
Yeah, the courses I design and the course I deliver, most certainly, I do it from two approaches. When it comes to, I have the interactive piece, and I'll come back to that. But for the engagement, I really promote that the courses need to stop and let students play with the concepts or the skills or whatever it is that they're teaching them. Let them play with it and have some sort of fun exercises, because what happens out there with some courses is the students are just ingesting this stuff and just passively, listening, and then there's overwhelm. It's like, well, I don't know what to do with this, and I didn't even understand 1/3 the way through. I wish I could have asked a question about that. So instead of content dumping, it's about chunking up your course into letting them stop after a certain, natural part where there's a certain concept's been talked about or a certain step has been talked about. And even if it's a small thing that they can just take a little quiz on it or ask to go offline and go do it, and here's a picture of what it should look like. I think that's the problem out there, and those MOOCs are just like this massive stream of content, right? But there's no stopping and learning. And I think that's what we need to do. I think people think, oh my gosh, I have to put so much into this course because people are buying it. Everyone does this, even professional teachers. They go, oh, but I need to add, and then I need to add this piece here too, and I need to add this piece here too. When I design with my clients, or how I teach students to design, is so focused. It's all around those learning goals. So that's one thing, and definitely interaction could be on two levels. It could be technically interactive, so you're clicking on gaming or a quiz or a video, or you're opening up resources, or you're going on a web quest, something sort of interactive like that. And the other piece is that learning community. I think it's really important. Teacher presence and learning community are really important. Now, if you put all those things together, it's overwhelm for the producers or for the developers. They're thinking, oh, I don't want to do all this. I just want to make a course and get it out there. Well, go ahead, but you're not going to get the best. You're not going to create the best learning experience for your students. And I think I'm trying to create that message out there. Like, there has to be responsibility. If you're going to put out a course, you need to do some of these things.
For sure. If you want the word to get around that you have an awesome course, you have to have that engagement. You have to have that interaction. You have to have something that people really love using, and something that's practical. So you can have a lot of theory, you can learn a lot, and there are lots of online courses. You can consume a lot of information. And we're living in an information age where information is everywhere. With these mobile devices, whether it's audiobooks, whatever, ebooks, you're consuming a lot of information. But that information has to be practical as well. You have to be able to use it. So that interactivity in a course is really important. Something that they can actually use in maybe bite-sized pieces. There's also just-in-time learning where you use the information that you need at that time when you need it. So do you use anything like that in terms of just-in-time learning? Or are your courses complete courses? Or are they smaller courses? How are they structured? Are they for a curriculum?
Well, it depends who I'm developing for, but the course I have that I offer, your Great and Gorgeous e-course, is I believe in presenting all the content at one time, and then each week I send sort of, a weekly announcement and sort of a focus for the week. I have a bit of an advanced organizer, a lesson booster about what it's going to be about this week, because everybody learns differently. Now, the just-in-time part I really like. So my resources that I offer throughout the course, like worksheets or links to this or links to that, I put under resources so they can come back and use those tools that are probably more prominent throughout my course. So they can come back in during the course or after the course because there's lifetime access. And I think that's another key thing. So I want them to come back in and be able to find that video that shows them how to set up, an email service, that's how they're going to drip out their content. I also do, technical setups on different plugins out there for courses. So whatever they need to come in and do and get, that's how I design my course. I chunk it up and I make it really easy to find and accessible.
Let's talk about the technical side for a second. What's the one tool that you just absolutely need to create your courses?
I love working in Articulate Storyline. I just absolutely love it. It is a program. It's very expensive. It's about $1,300. And I got into using it because I started to design for the corporate world, and that's what they seem to like there as well. It's for sort of short pieces. It's short. It's not for long 16-week courses or even 5-week courses, but I do it for my 5-week, and I'll tell you how in a sec. It's just really a bunch of slides. You can put a lot of interactivity and very visual. You can put a lot of multimedia into it, and it just packages together so nicely. It looks really, really professional. There's a built-in navigational system. It's a lot of fun to work with. I mean, the sky's the limit, what it looks like and what can be added into it.
So this is not your typical PowerPoint. This is not your screen flow. This is much more.
Yeah, it's much more. You build it in slides. It looks like slides. You build it in that, and then you can add just like that sort of interactivity and that clicking, almost gaming if you want. It nicely tucks in multimedia like your audio or video. It's great with graphics. It really is fun for the instructional designer. But for those that are building their own course in the entrepreneurial world, there's more and more tools coming out. I noticed, like Zippy Courses. It's a plugin I've been testing for Derek Halpern, and it's really a nice, user-friendly tool that you can actually put within your website if you have a WordPress website, and it sets up seamlessly. It sets up your email connection and your payment system, and you just start building courses in individual lessons and units. It's really nice and clean looking too.
There are lots of plugins. There are a few that kind of stand out. I'll mention all the tools in the show notes and the links for them that you've mentioned here. Articulate actually produces a couple of products. Storyline is one of them. They do interface with PowerPoint. So if you have something in PowerPoint that you've created, you can import that into Articulate Storyline and then add on to that. So you can add audio, you can add video, you can add quizzes, you can add a number of things to make it more interactive, this particular course that you're creating. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see other people making when they create online courses?
Well, again, content dumping, content overwhelm. Like when I teach using the backward design method, which is not my method. It's something from the educational field. And you start with, what do you want the students to walk away with? What are the goals? And you start building it backwards that way. And then the content really isn't developed until 3/4 of the way through this planning process, and it's such an awesome planning process. It really, really makes sense. But everyone starts with the content, and then it's like, how can I shove this into packages of units and lessons or emails or whatever it is they're going to do without any sort of path? And learners can get lost. I think we need to remember that if someone's taken a course from us, they're newbies. They want to take a course from us to learn, so they're vulnerable. They don't know. They don't have the background. They don't have that foundational knowledge. They don't even know the acronyms. We really have to start from that place. If it's an advanced course, that's different. But a lot of people are starting, creating basic courses out there, and they're just starting to free write and putting it up, and it's just overload, and people are going, well, how do I use this? How do I digest it? The brain learns in a certain way. So getting back to both the way the brain functions and, also psychological impact about, if it's a course on personal or spiritual development, how is this going to impact people, their emotions and their perspectives? So it's stopping and thinking about all that, and also thinking about, of course, my background is how do people learn online, and what are their needs? My doctoral research was around that as well. It is different. It's different. And I think it'd be really easy to fall into the notion that we watch people on, iPhones or smartphones and tablets, and we just watch them. They're fast and they know how to get around and stuff like that. And it's become known now in research, especially with younger kids, like high school kids, because they're, technically savvy does not mean they know how to use these tools constructively to learn. So the learning technologies or how to use this, how to find information and how to apply it is a whole new thing that they're actually finding, young people, let's say from 15 to 25, are having difficulties with. So I was teaching a blended course in a local college here to 20-somethings, and I did it in a blended course. So I did a lot of their assignments and stuff and their interactions and like a wiki, which is a live document everybody can type into. They did not know how to do any of this stuff, and they were completely confused, which baffled me. I had no idea. I thought, well, they're just going to pick this up and run with it. It was a slog to get them to do it and to show them how to do it. And they didn't, why should we do this? And that was a real eye-opener for me.
A lot of the younger students, they spend a lot of time on playing games. So they'll be up until 2 a.m. playing their favorite game. If we can somehow turn that around and make it entertaining so that it's like a game. I mean, this is, again, gamification. I talk to a lot of gamification experts, and they're really, really into the gamification side of things. If you can add something that appeals to them, that really gets them engaged, they will probably spend a lot more time and be on that particular learning path a lot longer than if it's just a boring set of videos and just consuming information with no real interactivity in there. What's your take on that?
Well, I believe what you're saying, and getting them engaged, at least into a creative project of some type. Creating gamification takes a lot of resources. I personally couldn't build a game. I can do it somewhat in articulate storyline, sort of branched case studies. So if you click on this answer, then you end up over, in this question, something to that degree. But creating, they call serious games, educational games, takes a lot of programming and resources. And I think it's really good. And I think institutions should start looking at this as well. And, we can't fight it. We can't say, oh, tough, these kids are just going to have to learn how to read a book. It's just not there. Technology has shaped us now to process information in a certain way. We have certain demands now when it comes to our senses, like the visual and the sound. We've stepped it up. And I don't know if institutions or even entrepreneurs have the capacity to design learning that is engaging like that. We just have to keep trying. It's okay, too, to create really great projects or individual or for groups to go and seek things and find things both on and off and solve problems. It's a little harder to do that in an informal course like the entrepreneurs produce, because people may or may not do it. But I think that's definitely the way to go. It has to be experiential in some capacity.
Yeah, you have to work with the tools that you have. So there are things that you can do and some things that you wish you could do. We talked quite a bit about different components. I like to get into a little bit of the technical side of things when we're creating online courses. You're creating videos. Where are you hosting these videos? Are you hosting them on YouTube, on Udemy, somewhere else?
Well, with the articulate storyline, you can embed them, and then I actually, because the course file is quite big, if you can imagine a lot, if there's videos and stuff in there, I actually host my final product on Articulate server, and I pay quite a bit of money for this, but it just runs really nicely. My smaller products, my free mini course, I actually can upload onto my WordPress website because it's not too heavy in sense of file size. But I've switched to Vimeo. I was at YouTube and I couldn't get rid of the ads that kept popping up. And I looked all over how to, I wasn't trying to monetize this thing, and I just couldn't get rid of it. So I went over to Vimeo and I paid their fee. I can't remember what it was. It's pretty reasonable. And I just really liked their product. I really liked their ability to hide things and make them private and that. So that's what I mostly use right now to share videos on my website, not in my courses because they're already embedded inside Articulate.
I was talking to a couple of other people. I was talking to Ellery Wells and Carrie Green, and they're both using YouTube. And there is apparently a way to turn off the ads in YouTube. They went for the free option, but Vimeo is an excellent service, and they provide a great streaming service. A lot of marketers use Vimeo because of the extra security and the extra quality that you get, I guess. Are you using a particular plugin to protect your content on the website? Are you using WordPress?
I'm using WordPress, yeah. And I think over in Vimeo I have the option to say if people can download my video or not. And I don't think I put that on. Because if any videos I put up there, it's mostly training videos. They're not very long because they're just in my blog and stuff. But the longer videos are usually embedded in my course. So it's very hard to take content from Articulate because it's almost like a video. Yeah, it's very hard to drag and copy. And speaking of which, I'm about to do a webinar with a lawyer down in the States in a few weeks. We're going to deliver a webinar on copyright protecting your course content, and also how not to infringe on somebody else's copyrights by taking images that are protected. So we're going to be giving a free webinar on that soon.
Images is a big topic there. There's lots of what they call free images online, but you have to really read the copyright for those. Even if they're copyright free, they may not be totally free. You're using WordPress, and how are you protecting your content? Do you have a protected page? Do you have a membership plugin? How are people subscribing to these courses?
Yeah, I have Wishlist Member. I think it's called that. Wishlist Member. Yeah. And it's a plugin. And then I just embed Articulate into a web page, and only those people that have paid for that access can see it. So it is protected that way. And right now I'm about to expand my membership page, my website. I'll have now 3 products. So there will be like a landing page everybody will go to. And the product you bought, you can click on and open the product you haven't bought. So it will be grayed out, but you can click on it and go to the sales page. So I'm having a developer in France, a colleague of mine, she's putting this together. They have the plugin they have the coding, to do that.
That's great. In terms of payment, how are you accepting payment? Are you using PayPal? Are you using something else?
Yeah, right now I'm using PayPal, and it's worked very well. Of course, it takes any type of credit card. And, as I expand and become more sophisticated, I may change that to a different type of shopping cart. But right now, PayPal is working perfectly.
Yeah, it's very convenient. With PayPal, you just take a bit of code and you just plug it into your website. I know with some of the other payment methods, you do have to worry about, say, an SSL certificate. For example, for Stripe, you do need to have an SSL certificate installed on your website.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, PayPal is the easiest solution. You don't have any issues with certain countries not being able to access your content?
No, my students have been in Norway, England, all over the States, Canada, and Germany, and Australia, and New Zealand. So, nope, they can all get there.
So, Kelly, take a few minutes and offer your best, most practical advice to anyone thinking of creating their first online course or training.
Well, it doesn't matter to me what you're teaching or how you're teaching. It could be face-to-face or it could be online. What I teach, and I work with my clients and I teach my students is, and they really love it. It's really hard is to consider the big idea for your course. And again, this is a theory or a framework, I should say, that's been developed already in the educational field and educators use to really sort of think about what is the broader concept of my course. And another reason I teach is because, especially in the entrepreneurial world, it is just flooded with courses. So people are always asking me, how can my course stand out? How can I teach something that's different than the next person who's teaching about social media marketing? Because there's lots of these courses out there. This is my expertise. This is my wisdom. And so the concept with the big idea is you just try to find that pearl, that theme, that essence of a course and deliver everything around it. So it's almost like, how do you see your topic? Right? How do you see what it is you're trying to teach as an expert? What turns you on about this course? I give examples of, instead of teaching photography and how to use a camera, teach how to capture light. So it's such a beautiful concept, teaching light. And it's like, and you can still teach everything you wanted to teach, but all the lessons can come under about light capturing. And the big thing about light capturing is it just makes the most beautiful pictures if we really think about light and, the side of a face or, a foggy field or, so teaching it, so that sort of aspect of beauty goes all the way through the course. And it's hard to define what that is, but once you have it, it just, excuse the pun, enlightens all your lessons, and it's more exciting to create, and it's more exciting for your students. So it's just not boring videos about how to use all the dials and so forth, the settings on a camera. It's about, okay, go out and find a scene you want to capture the light in just the right way, a scene you absolutely love in your neighborhood or your local park or your kids playing, and so it can all be sort of couched in that. When I teach my course, my big idea is creating learning journeys for students. So everything you do is about creating a journey, an experiential learning journey for them. What are they feeling? What are they experiencing in every single lesson? I could have just done the very practical, boom, boom, boom. Here's how you, set up a lesson plan, and here's how you get the course up technically online. But if it's couched in that sort of bigger concept, that bigger idea, it just makes a richer course, and it's much more exciting, I think, to create a course that way. So the students I've taught that to and the clients I've worked with, once we figured out what their big idea was, they love this. They said, this is it. They hadn't really seen learning or creating a product in that light before, and they really quite enjoyed it. And the two educators who developed this idea is McTighe and Wiggins, and they're under Understanding by Design. That's sort of their book, Understanding by Design. So if anybody wants to look into it further, the big idea.
Excellent. That's great advice. I think that appeals to the human side or the emotional side when you talk about light as opposed to just a course on how to create photographs. Excellent. So thank you so much, Dr. Edmonds, for being on the show. And where can people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you online? What's the best place?
My website. Everything is there. It's wiredlearningdesigns.com. And I'm on there, and there's lots of contact, and there's freebies and resources and a blog. And so everything's there if they would like to drop by. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edmonds. And all the course links and all the other links that we mentioned in the show will be in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
If you enjoyed this episode, just subscribe to the podcast and future episodes will be downloaded automatically for you. Check out the show notes at educationhackers.com to get links to resources we talked about in this episode. See you next time.